Tarrant is brave, young, handsome. There are 3 good reasons for anyone not to like him.
I'm Del Tarrant. I'm Del Tarrant.
Tarrant?
Fred Sousa. I was a Federation captain a long time ago. What are you doing on my ship?
He served as lieutenant on a caravan escort shuttle. It was his first command. I was his captain.
I've been on the Federation wanted list for quite a while. I had my own ship. I was running contraband, getting myself mixed up in other people's wars, you know, the sort of thing.
So how come you're not dead?
You were once a Federation space captain, you say?
Yes, I was for a time, until I deserted. Wait, on the turn. Villa, Cali, Dana. Right. Zen. Aurak, where the hell are we? Fire!
You still sound like one.
Tarrant says he was a space captain, but then he says a lot of things, and you don't have to believe it all, do you?
Provided you're as good at dynamic flux mathematics as you say you are.
It was one of my best subjects at the Federation Space Academy.
There is another process involved. Nucleoplasmic absorption.
Oh, well, that's a relief. I thought it might be something complicated. A moving body will continue to move in a straight line and at a constant speed unless it is acted upon by an outside force.
Bit of a know-all, aren't you?
All you got for your cleverness was an execution order on your head.
Yes, Villa, I take the point. You're obviously far cleverer than I.
Right?
No one survives as long as you have, Villa, without learning the facts of life.
The facts of life?
Ah, that I could dump you any time. The others wouldn't stop me, and you couldn't, could you?
What's wrong with Villa?
I scared him a little.
That must have been difficult.
For as long as I can remember, there's been people like you.
And I thought I was unique.
You're not even unusual, Tarrant.
I presume you have no tedious scruples about cheating and lying.
None at all. That thing has warped your reason, Avon. It's even warped your notorious instinct for looking after number 1.
Do you want me to threaten you?
Why not? I haven't had a good laugh in ages. One day, Avon, I may have to kill you.
Shut up, Tarrant.
Did you say something to me?
I said shut up. I apologize for not realizing you are deaf.
There's something else you don't realize. I'm faster than you and I'm sharper. As far as it goes, I've made a success of my life. And you? No, you failed, Avon. But I win. Not just at games. At life.
You also talk too much.
You need instruction, human called Tarrant. Come now. Would it be so very horrible to serve me? To be my protector?
You heard the transmissions. Callie's in trouble. She needs help. In my book, you don't ignore a call from a fellow crew member. Dana, better run a check on energy banks and force war. Prepare for combat.
Stay and fight.
With those 2 down there, what else can we do?
You really believe in taking risks, don't you?
Calculated ones.
Calculated on what? Your fingers? Tarrant is always precipitous. Or hadn't you noticed?
I'm sorry, it's very rude of me, but aren't you Dieter Tarrant?
Yes, I am. He left Earth a long time ago. He's my brother.
Dieter Tarrant is dead!
He should have killed him when he had the chance. Dieter never was very practical.
You don't know Tarrant, madam. He's a man. He thinks and acts like a man, not like a machine.
Vinny!
That's why he's still alive.
I wasn't planning to be a hero.
Would it be so soul-destroying, Tarrant?
He'll be famous. The man who killed Baben.
How about the woman that killed Baben?
Or better still, the girl who killed Baben. My name is Dana. My name is Dana. Dana Mellenby, the daughter of Hal Mellenby. I like hunting and walking, and I work with my father.
There,
I don't see anything.
the sea. That is our base.
You live underneath it. A space vehicle grounded on seabed.
I'm Hal Mellenby.
Hal Mellenby?
We're both fugitives from the Federation.
We're not criminals. We're not hiding.
That one was Dana's project. She has a genius with weaponry systems. And that isn't just the father's pride.
Gaudy, but effective.
And yet with all this to choose from, she still goes around with a bow and arrow.
I like the ancient weapons. The spear, the sword, the knife. They demand more skill.
Evan, this is Lauren, my adopted daughter.
She's off this planet, but she's lived with us since she was a child.
I'll stay with you.
There's no need. I can handle it, Dana.
Welcome back to your people.
Lauren, too. What's left?
Servalan.
A little old-fashioned and not my colour, but it'll do very nicely.
Not too young for you.
Father!
I'm going to kill her now while I've got the chance.
No. No! No, Dana. Do not kill Servalan.
I'm going to kill you. Sooner or later.
I mean this, Dana. You kill Servalan now, you blow everything wide open, including us.
I want you to imagine how my father felt just before you killed him. Do we fight?
She will die slowly and very noisily.
Don't count on it. To catch them, we have to chase them. Or hadn't that occurred to you?
Yes, well, it's a little more sophisticated than fighting hairy primitives with a bow and arrow. Now! She's very good.
Promising. Quite promising.
I'm bored.
You're boring, Villa.
You're always getting at me.
Your helplessness brings out my sadistic streak. Kiss me.
What?
I said kiss me. Come on. I can't be all that repulsive.
What was that for?
Curiosity.
Has the bonding ceremony begun?
You could say so, but we'd do better without interruptions.
Today's filming followed on from that mysterious end of the second series. Filming drama can be a long and laborious business, and the number of people behind the camera is almost always many times that in front of the camera.
Edwina, you'll have to watch shadows across the background, all yours and Anthony's and co.
Right. Some quiet for this rehearsal, please. Action. You've forgotten your line. Hold on.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were going to go from there.
No, we go from, who are these hunters? Go from the top, right? Here we go.
Sorry.
And action.
Who are these hunters?
They live to the north. They come to the forest to search for us.
Yes, but why?
Some of them do it for the sport, but most of them do it for the bounty.
Bounty?
The administration pays very highly. That's why there's so many professional hunters. They're the most dangerous.
You mean they get paid for killing you?
Killing? No, it's far worse than that.
Worse?
But everyone present has his or her particular job, and they must be on hand to do it. Today, at the beauty spot Housestein Gorge, high above Paisley Bridge, the Blake 7 crew were providing some extra entertainment for the many hikers who pass this way at this time of year.
Leave it where it is, but...
Kill this one.
What, that one there?
Well, I've got the spear stuck
yes,
between
yes.
us.
So, go back
Stop
to
meeting
Justin
like this.
at the moment.
I can't even find where you are.
Take your eye lines with you, please.
Michael as far forward as you can get.
Now, let's move the two.
Fine, John's tight that way as you can get. Yes.
Hang on.
This episode is called Power Play.
Without giving too much away, one of the characters on the spaceship, Villa, is lost in a country with primitive tribesmen, and here they take him to the gorge and rescue him. But in fact, the tribesmen and Villa are themselves hunted by these beautiful ladies with space guns called high-techs.
What about filming in Yorkshire? Because you've never been here to film before. You're doing a fortnight.
No, that's right. We haven't been here to film before, but this time we found that all the sorts of locations we want, the backgrounds to different planets that we visit in our series, as well as rocks. In one episode we have to simulate a volcano, are present here in Yorkshire.
Hang on.
Okay. Yeah. So fire it now then. Good. That's got a longer flame than the previous one.
Yes. Slightly less.
Now what about when it's aimed towards the camera? Is it going to be any more lethal? Yes, please. We try it again. Are you giving it a bigger charge this time? No, it's a different sort of charge.
It's a different mix.
Yes.
To try and
The great thing about science fiction is that there are plenty of devices and special effects to play with, and they all have to be tested.
How long does it take to load?
This long.
Okay, fire it now then. That was in fact better. There is a great production of science fiction feature films at the moment, and I think the public like this kind of entertainment. Sometimes it's spoof and extremely jokey, and other times it's more effective psychologically, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And nothing that we do in our show is going to be impossible in 200, 250 years' time, and people will be moving around through space in spaceships in the way that we are.
This is where the glamour of television tends to fall.
Oh, it tickles.
No star dressing room for actress Julia Vidler, who plays a baddie. She shares a countryside with the animals as her face emerges, but her turn in front of the cameras comes at a different location.
Right? Yeah. Okay, put it down the back. There's little bits to stick down, isn't there? Yes. I'll get the glue noir. Just, a few bits sticking forward underneath. Just lift them.
One of Blake's 7, who's been in the series since the start, is actor Michael Keating.
Michael Keating, the new series starts in January. What can we expect? Any major changes?
Possibly, yes. I think my character, who is regarded by the public as a bit of a coward, becomes perhaps slightly braver. I mean, here I am on this planet, which looks a little like the Yorkshire Dales, and I've been badly wounded, and I've got to get back to the ship, and that's my number one priority, and I will do that, I hope.
And one of the extras, really, about science fiction is all the newfangled toys and things you can play with.
Yes, I mean, this is my ray gun. Now, I daren't fire this because if I did, I mean, that building over there and also some of those sheep in the distance and cars would disappear, just like that. And this is my teleport bracelet. I can communicate with the Liberator, which is up there somewhere, I hope. And I can disappear, just like this.
There we are, and as I said, Blake 7 will be back on your screens, BBC One, in January.
Well, according to my mother, at the age of 6, I was the kid who got the red Smartie out of the tube and dipped it in water and put it on somebody else. Not on me, where most girls always put it on themselves. And she said, you were always going to be a makeup lady. I knew this. I had done a lot of makeup work in school. I had a marvellous art teacher, and he was brilliant. And he taught me so much about stage makeup. And I was part of an Amdram in South Wales, where, I mean, everybody either acts or sings in South Wales, and I did both. So I'd been very lucky. I'd had all this experience. And I went to drama school, and I learned more. And then at the end of that, I just wanted to carry on and use makeup as my career. I knew sort of from the beginning that I was really interested in it. And I didn't know where to start. I was in this little town in South Wales. Nobody could give me any advice. And so I did that ridiculous thing that sometimes you do when you don't know any better. I wrote to the BBC and I said, I want to be part of the makeup department. Please, will you tell me how I join you? And I got a letter, almost by return of post. And it said, well, you're very lucky. We're actually advertising at the moment for makeup trainees. And I was sent a date and a time. And I travelled up to London, and I had my interview. I wasn't really sure it was an interview because there were too many nice people, and I just had a conversation as far as I was concerned. Then I was asked to do a makeup test, which I could do with no trouble at all because I'd done so much makeup already. I'd really been well taught in stage makeup. And next thing I know, I have a letter, and it says, you have a trainee place at the BBC. And I was absolutely gobsmacked because it was only a long time after that I found there were literally thousands of applicants. Thereafter, once I joined the BBC, I stayed here and worked for the BBC for far too long. But sometimes when you're enjoying what you're doing, what can you do? You just stay. And I stayed. Gareth and I were living together. We'd met on another production. And I was working on something, well, do you know, truthfully, I can't remember what it was. But I was walking through the reception of the BBC, and a friend of mine that I'd just been working with, passing through, again, we were ships that were passing in reception, said to me, how does Gareth feel about that show? And I said, what show? Because I honestly didn't know anything about it. And he told me, because he was a friend, I mean, it was just gossip, really. He said, I've heard they're going to ask him if he wants to do a science fiction series called Blake 7. Now, Gareth hadn't known anything about it as far as I was concerned, so I went home knowing I had this bit of information, but wondering whether I should say anything or not, because I didn't know whether to, if he didn't get it, he'd be upset. If he did get it, well, it would have been nicer for him to have had the surprise. So I sort of knew about it. Just that little bit of time before he did. And then when he got the show and he came home and said, darling, I've got Blake 7, I said, gosh, how wonderful. And looked surprised. The first episode I did was in season 1. And a friend of mine was the makeup designer at the time on that particular episode. Her name was Marianne Ford. And she asked me would I like to come along, because they needed an extra pair of hands. And she didn't tell me we were going to be all night and I was going to be partially, well, should we say, I didn't expect to be climbing a tree.
So those things can't climb trees.
Fly. We spent the whole night standing looking at a tree, most of the night. It was the first time they had one of the mutoid characters. And it was a lovely actress called Carol Royal. And they needed somebody to make her up. Now, it wasn't just making her up. It was managing to stick that very nice black pepper pot hat on her head and keep it on her while she did several fight sequences. And every time she did a forward roll, well, what do you think happened? Of course the damn thing fell off. But apart from that, there was also a strange sort of skin condition that they wanted. They wanted them to look very sweaty. They were supposed to be vampires, basically. They had to inject themselves, or at least load themselves with blood.
My function will be impaired if I don't get further serum soon.
And consequently, when they ran down, the faces got very sweaty and pale and feverish. But that was my first experience of Blake 7. At the end of the first series, the entire cast were absolutely exhausted.
Stand by. This is 153, take 3.
They had done really quite crazy hours, and they were absolutely exhausted.
Fine, thank you.
And so when they started, the BBC decided they were going to take on maybe slightly different staff for Series 2, Marianne Ford asked me would I actually like to come on board. And I said yes straight away, because by this time I've got to know the cast. I've got to know a lot of the crew. I like them all anyway. They're fun people. So why not? Why not go on to the show?
There was one occasion, I believe, in our flat in Boston Manor, when apparently, because the schedules were fairly hairy and I was very, very tired, apparently I kicked Sheila out of bed in the middle of the night yelling out, "Pull up the force wall, Jenna!"
Activate.
Blake!
I went in as Marianne's assistant. So my job was to make up certain of the actors, certain of the actresses, and also probably look after maybe some of the extras, like mutoids, or maybe help some of the other supporting artists with their hair and makeup. So that was roughly my job, but it was fairly fluid. Everything was flexible.
And she had to get up much earlier than me to do the makeup. And I overslept. And the door burst open, and in comes Sheila saying, You're bloody late for your makeup call. Oh, stay there, I'll make you up in bed. And I thought, this is a star.
I think Gareth was my responsibility then. It weighed heavy on my shoulders, as you can imagine. And also I looked after Michael Keating, who will always be my favourite person, because I loved Michael, because he makes me laugh all the time.
Sounds big and bad-tempered. I just hope it's vegetarian.
Season 3 was when I became the makeup designer, and of course it was very different from anything I'd done before, because Gareth had now left. Sally had now left. And we had 2 new characters. We had Stephen Pacey and we had Gisette Simon. So I had 2 new characters to design, which was very nice from my point of view, but also it was rather odd to work on Blake 7 and Gareth wasn't there.
Have you anything on Blake's whereabouts?
He is safe and well and en route for the planet Ephron.
But my responsibilities, of course, were very different. Now I had the script sent to me. I would break down the scripts, I would work out the continuity, I would have meetings with the directors, with costume. I'd also have meetings with technical people, so I'd find out about any technical input that they would have that might affect the way the actors looked. So now it was very different. I was no longer being told what to do, I was now telling others. I remember being very nervous right at the very beginning, but David Maloney, who was the producer at that point, was, again, a great person to work with. Always answer questions, never get bad-tempered.
OK. Let's just have a rehearsal quickly, because they come from the north, the Forest Searchers, OK?
When I was in charge, of course, I was much closer to the directors, because I was working directly for them, and Veer Lorimer was one. Veer could never remember people's names. Never. So he called me Mrs. Blake, because that was the only way round he could do it. He knew I was living with Gareth, and Gareth was playing Blake, and that's how it had to be. So I was Mrs. Blake. And in the end, I actually got a T-shirt made with it on. And Mrs. Blake crossed the front, so if he did have problems, then he only had to read the front of my T-shirt.
Tickles.
Looking after Gisette was my first responsibility on the 3rd season, because David Maloney said, she's very new, she's very young, she's just out of drama school, so she's really going to be needed, well, we really need to show her the ropes. So he said to me, I'd like you to look after Gisette. Now, she was delightful, so that was no problem, but she didn't have any sense of time. So when I needed to take her to the hairdresser, I had to ring her first of all.
Gisette, are you up?
No.
Are you awake?
Sort of.
Okay.
Get up, because there's going to be a cab outside your door
in about 10 minutes to take you to the hairdresser.
and then I'd keep my fingers crossed. And if the cab didn't ring me, then I knew Giuseppe had got into it. Then I'd go to the hairdresser and wait for her. She was a really nice person, but no sense of time.
Move any faster, you'll break into a standstill.
When we went on location, we often had a makeup caravan. Now, this would be a purpose-built caravan where we would run it just like a makeup room. So once you went in through the door, it basically looked like a makeup room. But trying to drive that into a quarry, up a sticky little road, was kind of difficult anyway. But when those actors had been in and out it, hour after hour, as it rained, then it didn't rain, so we'd go out. Then they'd come back in again. They'd be filthy, because their boots would be filthy, covered in mud. And I had a lovely caravan driver called John, who would spend his time trying to clean the floor. And that was like trying to paint the Forth Bridge, because as soon as he stopped, they all came in, and he'd to clean it again. Of course, the additional problem, if you were working in a quarry, was when you went home at night. Now, home for us would not be our own homes, it would be a hotel. And I do remember very clearly working in a quarry all day, and it was, I think it was chalk, it might have been clay. Whatever it was a very light grey. And we took most of it back with us. And, of course, a whole lot of us traipsed in through the front door of the hotel. Beautiful red carpet. And there were these horrified looks in front of us. And so we turned round, and, of course, there was this trail behind us. And we just brought half the quarry in. And so after that, we were asked, would we go in through the back door and walk through the less expensive carpets. Well, they say good things never die. And certainly Blake 7 has sort of haunted me. It's been around a lot. There have been conventions. I've made a lot of friends. It was just one of those shows. It became a family, and everybody enjoyed it. So I've kept in touch with at least half, maybe almost 2/3 of the people who worked on it. I've bumped into some of them professionally. Some I still will meet for a cup of coffee. But it's been a show that's had an afterlife, as well as a life during the making of the show.
My father was in the RAF, and there was always cinemas on the RAF camps, and they used to run films that were quite old, and I always used to think, my goodness me, I could do that. And I was always quite good at gymnastics at school. I could at least stand on my hands. And then eventually I joined the parachute regiment, and eventually became a physical training instructor. And I had some experience as a gymnast. I could do backflips then, and of course the army training helped. And when I came out, I used to know a man called Nick Stewart. He'd been a physical training instructor in the parachute regiment, and I know that he'd been on 1 or 2 films. And I said to him, how do you get into films? And he said, well, you've got to get on an agency's books, and tell them that you want to become something like a tumbler or something, because they won't take you on as a stuntman. So I did. I found an agency, told them that I wanted to be a tumbler. They took me on, they gave me some extra work. Well, believe it or not, I was actually booked as an extra on one of Ronnie Barker's programmes called Hark at Barker, and they wanted 12 people in a bus queue. And there was going to be a stuntman on it, but he didn't turn up. Never heard of that before, but in this occasion, this stuntman hadn't turned up for the job. And the director came up to me and everybody else in the bus queue and said, can anybody drive a taxi? And I said, well, actually, I can. And he said, well, look, we want to do this a little bit. We were going to do a stunt, but we want this taxi to do a near miss. Anyway, I volunteered, and I did it. And Ronnie Barker got talking to me, and I told him that I'd been a gymnast, and I really wanted to become a stuntman, but this is the way I'm starting. And believe it or not, he actually wrote 2 or 3 sketches for me and used them in his Hark at Barker. Yes, I was in wheelchair, all bandaged up and all sorts of things. And eventually went on to do the 2 Ronnies, and for all those years that they filmed the 2 Ronnies, I was in quite a lot of those sketches. He always remembered me. I was just called into it at Ealing Studios, and I'd been called in and they told me to put this costume on, and they gave me the name of the character. I don't know whether I was doubling anybody, I can't remember that, but I think I was a member of the crew that got killed, and I'm on top of this coat as a dead body. How I got up there, I never know. And for some reason, I seem to remember I'm falling off it. And for some reason, they kept booking me, and I could never really get rid of it after that. You had to make yourself pretty useful in those days, you know, and be quite prepared to get a different costume on. And sometimes you'd even be fighting yourself. I'd throw a punch, and I'd be the one that received it as well. In those days, you used to be asked for your advice. Now you go on to a big film, and they know exactly what they want, and they've all got it storyboard. They don't want your advice. They will tell you what they want, and you have to do it their way. or you liaison with the stunt arranger, and you get a way of doing it. But in those days, you had to consider the time that was left to do it in. You had to consider whether we were losing the light. And they'd say, well, you know, really, we want a spectacular stunt, but we're not going to have the time to do it. Stuart, what could you suggest? And you say, well, look, if I step backwards firing this weapon, I could fall over this boulder and somebody can come up and stab me. How's that? Excellent. We can get that done in a couple of minutes. Thanks a lot, Stuart. We'll do that.
Haven!
So you got an opportunity to actually contribute a lot more in those days than you get today. For television and working on a series like that, we try and keep our faces off the camera.
I want Avalon now.
But if you get a decent part and your face is seen a lot, they can't use you for perhaps 2 or 3 seasons after that because people remember your face and that character you play. Say, well, how come he's back in it again? He got killed in the other one. But if you keep playing small parts where you're going to get knocked off the battlements or something, or get shot, it's going to be very quick, so nobody's going to really register your face. In the studio, you've got a smooth surface like this that would be dressed. The rocks might be polystyrene. You wouldn't be able to fall on those because they look very light and quite ridiculous. But if you're out on location and you might be willing to fall back on the rocks and they would look completely natural. So you could probably do it for real out on location. But in the studios, you used to have to fall out of frame into something so that it didn't give the game away. Well, we were shooting an episode of Volcano, and the budget didn't really have it in it that I go up and recce anything. You just get called up there and told that you're going to get shot and you've got to die. And you would arrive there and look at the bit that they want you to do, and you'd go off and find a nice little spot to do it. But there was a beautiful edge that was quite high up, but not terribly high up. And I asked them how many stunt boxes they had, and they told me. And I said, well, you know, we can do this, you know, as long as we get the camera angles right.
You're right.
Never mind, we can get them.
Right. You only had to ask.
And we shot it, and we'd only had one camera, so we'd have shot it at least twice, we'd be falling twice. And then put together, it looked quite a respectable stunt, but in actual fact, it was a complete cheat. It was all done on camera angles. And then, of course, the trouble is that they will bolt a studio shot on the end that's done with a blue background. And that really does look a bit naff, which spoiled the stunt, in my opinion.
Stupid shoes. Why is fashion never practical?
I was an assassin, and I was up perhaps 8 feet or something on a terrace, and I had to shoot Stephen. I don't think I got my shot out. He got to me first. It was up about 8 feet. I did do the fall, but of course they cut the moment I start going over the railing, and then they pick up on again when I hit the actual settee at the bottom. But I did do that fall in between, which is missed in the way that they cut it. But you never say to the director, I don't think that you shot that very well. And if you did, you probably wouldn't work in the next episode. I mean, we're all working to get these things done on time and within budget. And if he's happy with it, as a stunt performer, I'm happy with it as well.
This is the day that was prophesied. The day our law foretold. They will come from the sky to destroy us. They will burn the stars to light their way. We must be prepared. Look.
You can be on films for years, and you're just another one of the front of the crowd getting shot first. You don't actually get anything to do doubling any stars. It's much more fun to actually be on a BBC programme, and you've got a star to double for.
Destroy the strangers. Hunt them down and kill them. Kill them. Kill them!
Believe it or not, I look like Alan Lake. We both had wigs on. And it was important that we did look like brothers. And it was also important that we rode quite well. It was up in Northumberland. There was a lot of riding along the beach. And Alan Lake was an expert rider. We were almost like Indians, I think. Gareth Milne, expert rider, very, very successful stuntman, works very, very much even today. Terry Forstall's died, actually. He died doing a parachute jump, yes, from a cliff edge. And he was an extremely good stuntman.
I mean, we had some wonderful stuntmen. I was talking about Frank Mayer, whom I saw recently. And people like Nosher Powell and Dinny Powell. I mean, a dynasty of stuntmen. Glyn, their son's in it now. And great guys. I mean, we used to have great fun with the stuntmen.
Nosher Powell, and he was an enormous boxer. He still is an enormous man, but he was a boxer and he had a big beard and he looked like a Viking and he'd played many Vikings in his day. We had a wonderful time filming it in the Forest of Dean, where there were lots of tunnels and things. We had some great stunt players on that. Paul Weston being one of them, and he's now one of the top stunt arrangers on the Bond pictures and everything like that. He's gone a long way since though. There was court scenes. These people had great halls and castles, and there was actually a jester in it. And I do juggling skills, and I had to teach the jester to do some of the skills. A few juggling tricks and a bit of balance. I'd like to have played it myself, but the director said to me, no, we need somebody with a murderous-looking face. He said that you're always smiling. He said that wouldn't do, so I never got that part. One of the crew from Blake 7, he had to entertain the king as though he was a jester.
The chain now travels up my right arm, across my chest, down my left arm, and into my great king's noble hand.
Splendid! The instructions I got was teach him a trick that he might have learnt at school.
And now, for my next trick.
Working on things like Blake 7 meant that the directors that went on to other programmes, they would say, I know just the person to do this bit, and they would call you on again. So it led to lots and lots of other work, but not only the directors, the production assistants, producers, and things like that. Well, I still occasionally do some television, but I also do circus skills as well, and I work all the time doing corporate entertainment, medieval banquets, jousting and that sort of thing. So we still keep working.
You have to do what you think is best, don't you? Well, so do I.
That's him gone.
What is it?
It's like a diagram.
What?
This isn't a ship. It's a tomb. They, whoever they are or were or are. That don't make sense.
Say again?
Whoever they were or are.
Whoever they are.
Oh, I was right.
Terrence! Terrence!
I was afraid it might have been used, but it's all right. I shall have to check it for damage.
Check what?
Watch the corridor.
Ethan, what are you doing?
Pulling the set apart.
There were times when your simple-minded certainties might have been refreshing.
Careful, Avon. Your sentiment is showing.
Well, Tarrant, I've heard your name before.
I've been on the Federation wanted list for quite a while. I had my own ship. I was running contraband, getting myself mixed up in other people's wars, you know, the sort of thing. And naturally, I heard a good deal about what Blake and the rest of you were doing.
We did achieve a measure of notoriety. How did you get here?
Well, like you, I went in against the aliens, got blasted in the first attack. I was picked up by a Federation ship. That's how I came by the uniform. An hour later, she was hit and we had to abandon. My life capsule homed in on Liberator and I came aboard. She was still in pretty bad shape at the time, all the repair circuits working flat out.
When did Cyan and his men come aboard?
Their life capsule linked up the following day. They'd abandoned their own ship. I had no choice but to bluff it out and pretend I was Federation. The man I got the uniform from outranked Cyan, so it wasn't too difficult.
You certainly convinced me, especially when you cracked me across the back of the head.
Yes, sorry about that. But I realized that if you spoke, the computer would have no alternative but to identify you.
Del Tarrant. Who are you?
I've been on the Federation wanted list for quite a while. I had my own ship. I was running contraband, getting myself mixed up in other people's wars, you know, the sort of thing. Naturally, I heard something of what Blake and the rest of you were doing.
We tried not to keep it a secret. How did you get here?
Like you, I went in against the aliens. Unlike you, I barely survived the first salvo. I was picked up by a Federation ship. That's how I came by the uniform. When she was hit and we abandoned, my life capsule homed in on the Liberator. She was still in bad shape, but the repair circuits were beginning to make headway.
Were Clegg and his men already here?
Yes, so I had no choice but to bluff it out and pretend I was Federation. The man I got the uniform from outranked Clegg, and I trained as a Federation space captain, so it wasn't too difficult.
You certainly convinced me, especially when you cracked me over the back of the head.
Yes, sorry about that, but I knew if you spoke, the computer would identify you.
No.
You don't mean that.
I know what I mean, and what I mean is no.
At least think about it. Think about it.
All right, I thought about it. No.
I can't make you go, of course.
That's right, you can't.
But I can toss you off this ship. Why not? You're no use to me.
I didn't have to be any use to you. I was here first. I was with Blake. I've got more right on the ship than you have.
Right. One survives as long as you have, Villa, without learning the facts of life. And the facts of life are that I can dump you anytime. The others wouldn't stop me. And you couldn't, could you? I suggest you reconsider your decision. But don't take too long. I'm not a patient man.
All my life, as long as I can remember, there's been people like you.
I thought I was unique.
You're not even unusual, Tarrant. I'll give me my equipment.
I'll get it for you.
No, you stay here. Check the teleport coordinates. You can't bully a machine to doing what you want. Good, smashing. I just can check them. If Paul would like to come in now.
Come on, Villa, you don't mean that.
I know what I mean, and what I mean is no.
At least think about it. Think about it.
All right. I thought about it. No.
I can't make you go, of course.
That's right, you can't.
But I can toss you off this ship.
What?
You're no use to me.
I don't have to be any use to you. I was here first. I was with Blake. I've more right on this ship than you have.
Right. No one survives as long as you have, Villa, without learning the facts of life.
The facts of life?
That I could dump you anytime. The others wouldn't stop me, and you couldn't, could you? Now, I suggest you reconsider your decision. But don't take too long. I'm not a patient man.
All my life, for as long as I can remember, there's been people like you.
And I thought I was unique.
You're not even unusual, Tarrant. I'll need my equipment.
I'll get it for you.
You stay here. Check the teleport coordinates. At least you can't bully a machine into doing what you want.
Right. So, off you go now, and still. Turn around. Hands against the wall.
Can I turn round?
Slowly.
You got him. Good. Very impressive performance. I didn't think it possible for anyone to stay out of sight for so long. But you did have the advantage of local knowledge, Avon.
My name...
Your name is Avon.
How did you know?
The first moment we came face to face. I said, what are you doing on my ship? There were a dozen ways to answer, but you said, your ship? A total stranger wouldn't have questioned who was in command.
A foolish lapse of concentration on my part.
Oh, don't feel too badly. You've been under a lot of stress. So when I knew you were one of Blake's 7, Blake's people, it was simple. You weren't Blake. I'd have recognized him.
And too intelligent for Villa.
Exactly. But who's the girl? Callie or Jenna?
Her name is Dana. She's not one of us. She helped me after I crash landed.
Should we take him down to the flight deck? Simon will want a question.
When I'm ready.
You will have to interrogate me. I'll refuse to answer, and then into the dreary process of subjecting me to extreme pain and suffering.
Barbaric, but frequently effective.
But before that, I think you should know.
Yes?
One of your men was murdered.
2? There were 2 killings.
The point is that we didn't kill them. Neither Dana nor I were responsible.
He's lying.
But I think I know who it might have been.
Well?
Him.
Why, you're lying.
Easy, Harmon.
I couldn't kill them. They were my friends.
Go on.
I saw him coming from one of the sections. He was scared. I couldn't make anything of it. Then I remembered what was housed in that section. Substantial quantities of interplanetary currency for trading. Rare metals, precious stones. He was coming out of the strong room.
I was carrying out orders. Searching for you.
Show the bag you have in your pocket.
Why?
The other 2 knew what he was doing. He didn't want to share with them.
There's only one flaw in that case.
Yes?
He didn't kill them. I did. You'll need that if we're both to come out of this alive. Yeah, I got that lost there.
Oh, doesn't matter.
We're ready, Andrew. Go in 5 seconds.
Still. Turn around. Hands against the wall.
Can I turn round?
Slowly.
You got him. Good. Very impressive performance. I didn't think it possible for anyone to stay out of sight for so long. But then you had the advantage of local knowledge, Avon.
My name is...
Your name is Avon.
How did you know?
The first moment we came face to face. I said, what are you doing on my ship? There were a dozen ways to answer, but you said, your ship? A total stranger wouldn't have questioned who was in command.
A foolish lapse of concentration on my part.
Well, don't feel too badly. You've been under a lot of stress. So when I knew you were one of Blake's people, it was simple. You weren't Blake. I'd have recognized him.
And too intelligent for Villa.
Exactly. But who is the girl? Callie or Jenna?
Her name is Dana. She's not one of us. She helped me after I crash landed.
Look, shall we take him down to the flight deck? Simon will want to question him.
When I'm ready.
You will have to interrogate me. I'll refuse to answer. And then into the dreary process of subjecting me to extreme pain and suffering.
It's barbaric, but frequently effective.
But before that, I think you should know.
Yes?
One of your men was murdered.
2? There were 2 killings.
The point is that we didn't kill them. Neither Dana nor I were responsible.
He's lying.
But I think I know who it might have been.
Well?
Him.
Why, you're lying.
Easy, Harmon.
I couldn't kill him. They were my friends.
Go on.
I saw him coming from one of the sections. He was scared. I couldn't make anything of it. Then I remembered what was housed in that section. Substantial quantities of interplanetary currency for trading. Rare metals, precious stones. He was coming out of the strong room.
I was carrying out orders. Searching for you.
Show the bag you have in your pocket. The other 2 knew what he was doing. He didn't want to share with them.
There's only one flaw in that case.
Yes?
He didn't kill him. I did. You'll need that if we're both to come out of this alive.
Stand! Face it. Put your hands against it.
May I turn round now?
Carefully.
You got it. Good. Very impressive performance. I didn't believe anyone could stay out of sight for so long. But then you did have the advantage of local knowledge, didn't you, Avon?
My name
Your
is...
name is Avon.
How did you know?
When we first came face to face, I said, what are you doing on my ship? There were a dozen ways you could have answered, but you said, your ship? An innocent stranger wouldn't question who was in command.
Unless he was here first, as I said I was.
No. Clegg's men would have found you. They had to make sure no one else was on board in order to claim the salvage prize money. Greed makes very efficient troopers. Now, if you were here, then you must have been hiding. I repeat, an innocent stranger wouldn't question who was in command.
I congratulate you. That's very nicely reasoned. A stupid lapse of concentration on my part.
Oh, don't blame yourself too much.
I'll try not to.
I imagine you've been under considerable stress.
I had hoped for a more inspiring epitaph.
So, after realizing you were one of Blake's people, it was simple. You weren't Blake. I'd have recognized him.
And too intelligent for Villa.
It was an even bet.
Quite.
I still don't know who the girl is, though.
Her name is Dana. She's not one of us. Where is she, by the way?
Do you care?
She did save my life.
Shouldn't we take him to the flight deck, sir? Section Leader Clegg will want to question him.
When I'm ready, Harmon.
Clegg doesn't strike me as a subtle man.
He isn't.
So when I refuse to answer his questions, we'll get into the dreary process of subjecting me to extreme pain and suffering.
Barbaric, but frequently effective.
Before we get into that, there's something I think you should know.
Go on.
One of your men was murdered.
Two of our men were murdered.
Oh, better than I thought. I wish I could say I was sorry. What I can say is we didn't kill them.
He's lying.
I think I know who it might have been.
Yes?
Him. Why, you lie.
Easy, Harmon.
They were my friends.
Let him finish.
I saw him coming out of one of the sections. He was nervous, uneasy. I couldn't make anything of it until I remembered what was housed in that section. This ship carries considerable sums of various currencies, rare metals, precious stones and the like. He was coming out of the strong room.
I was following orders. I was searching for you.
Show him the bag you have in your pocket. The others must have known what he was up to. He didn't want to share with them.
You made a good case, Avon. There was only one thing wrong with it.
What was that?
He didn't kill those men. I did. You'll need that if we're both to come out of this alive.
I first met Stephen Pacey when he came in for audition. There had been a whole series of auditions during the course of the summer months before season 3 with this replacement for Blake. I think the difficulty was people had got it into their heads that it was a replacement for Blake. Nobody could see Tarrant as an individual. So we'd gone through every 35-year-old actor in Spotlight or on Equity's books and hadn't found the right person. It had to be somebody who could contrast to Paul Darrow as Avon and to carry quite a weight of the show as the gap left by Gareth Thomas. In the end, they were looking at younger actors. I think to some extent out of desperation. There was talk about changing the whole concept and moving it along to something else. And eventually, this young man, Stephen Pacey, came in for an audition or an initial meeting with David Maloney. And I went to meet him at the lifts on the 8th floor of the East Tower, where we still were. And he walked out of the lift, held out his hand and smiled at me. My knees turned to water. I don't know how I managed to get him into David's office. But anyway, they obviously had a chat. And as soon as he'd gone, I said to David, "You have got to hire that man. He is gorgeous." And he went, "What are you talking about?" Because, of course, being a man, had no idea of the impact this smile was going to have.
We are led by a man called Avon. We've got a base. We're looking for allies.
Bitofar affirms.
Stand still. It's me, Blake. You betrayed me.